Section 2.2, the multiplication property. So the multiplication property of equality is, if you have A equals B, then you can multiply both sides of the equation by some other number, such as C. So if A equals B, then A times C equals B times C. And A, B, and C have to be real numbers. So what we're saying there is you can multiply both sides of an equation by the same number, and you will get an equivalent equation that has the same solution. You can multiply negative 6y times negative 1/6. But if you multiply the left-hand side of this equation by negative 1/6, you also have to multiply the right-hand side by negative 1/6. That will give you, on the left-hand side, the negative times a negative will give you a positive. The 6's will cancel, so you'll just have y. On the right-hand side, the 6 will go into 42 7 times. You have a negative 7 times negative 1, so your answer is negative 7. And you can always put that into the original equation, negative 6y equals 42. Put negative 6 into that equation in place of y. That gives you positive 42 equals positive 42, so it checks. So our solution is, in fact, y equals negative 7. Our next example, negative y equals 14. We need to isolate y. Y needs to be by itself. It needs to have a coefficient of 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply by a negative 1. That will give us a positive y. But if we multiply the left-hand side of this equation by negative 1, in order to keep the equation in balance, we have to multiply the right-hand side of this equation by negative 1. Whatever we do to the left, we must do to the right. So that gives us y equals negative 14. Now think about the original equation, which was negative y equals 14. And if you substitute negative 14 into this equation, you get negative 14 equals 14. That gives you a positive 14 equals 14. It checks. It makes a true statement. So our solution is, in fact, y equals negative 14. We need to solve for x in this equation. We don't want x divided by 5. We just want x. So let's multiply both sides of this equation times a positive 5. Whatever we do to the left, we have to do to the right. Now notice on the left-hand side, we have a 5. 5 goes into 5 one time. 5 goes into 5 one time. 5 over 5 is 1, so there's no point in writing it. On the left-hand side, we just have x. On the right-hand side, we have 10 times 5, which is 50. So our solution is 50. We can, of course, check this solution by substituting 50 into the original equation in place of x. Is 50 divided by 5 equal to 10? Yes, it is. So that solution checks. 2.3a times equals 4.6. We need to get a by itself. We don't want 2.3 there. It's 2.3 times a, and the opposite of multiplication is division. We can eliminate the 2.3 by dividing both sides of the equation by 2.3. 2.3 over 2.3, in fact, any number over itself is 1, so that leaves us with just a, and 4.6 divided by 2.3 is 2. So a equals 2 is our solution. We can check that solution By substituting it into the original equation, instead of 2.3a, we have 2.3 times 2. Does that equal 4.6? Yes, it does. So our solution checks, and we know that we solved the problem correctly. So let's translate each problem now into an equation and then solve and check our solution. So we have the product of -8 and a number is 32. Product means multiply of -8 and a number. We'll use x for the number. Is means equals. So the product of -8 and a number, which we will call x, means equals 32. So what is our solution? We need to eliminate the -8. It's -8 times x. The opposite of multiplication is division. So we will divide both sides by -8. That will give us x equals -4. We need to check our solution, so we rewrite our original equation. -8 times x, instead of x, we substitute -4. Does that equal positive 32? Yes, it does. -8 times a -4 is a positive 32. It checks, and so our solution of x equals -4 is a valid solution. 3/4 of a number is -3. So 3/4, we know that's just 3/4, the fraction. Of means multiply. A number, we have to decide how to represent our number. Let's call it x. Is equals -3. So 3/4 times x equals -3. We need to get x by itself. Let's rewrite our equation over here. 3/4 times a number is -3. We need to eliminate the 3/4. We'll do that by multiplying by the reciprocal. What is 4/3 times 3/4? We can cancel the 3's, we can cancel the 4's, and we're left with just x. But if we multiply the left-hand side of the equation by 4/3, we must also multiply the right-hand side of the equation by 4/3. The 3's cancel, and we are left with a -4. X equals a -4. We should always consider what happens when we substitute -4 back into the original equation in place of x. 3/4 times -4, the 4's cancel and you're left with -3. -3 equals -3, that solution checks. The next problem says the quotient. What does quotient mean? It means division. Of a number, let's call it n. And 7 is always means 35. So the quotient of a number and 7, so it's 7 divided, or n divided by 7, is 35. Now we need to solve for n. We need to get rid of that divided by 7. We can do that by multiplying both sides by 7. The 7's cancel on the left-hand side, and we get n equals, what is 35 times 7? 30 times 7 is 210, plus 35, 245. So we get 245 as our solution. We can substitute that back into the original equation. which was n divided by 7 equals 35. So 245 divided by 7 is 35. It checks. The solution checks. It never hurts to substitute our solution back into the original equation to see if it makes a true statement. A University of Louisville student pays $2,250 for 1 semester of on-campus housing. This represents 30% of his university bill for the semester. How much was his entire bill for the semester? So he paid $2,250, and that represented, or it was, 30%, 0.30, of his entire university bill for the semester. How much was his entire bill for the semester? So 2,225 was 30% of his bill. We need to solve for the bill, so we're going to divide both sides by 0.30 to eliminate that 0.30, because the opposite of multiplication is division. The 0.30s on the right-hand side will cancel. So we have 2,250 divided by 0.30 will give us our entire bill. How much do you expect the bill to be? If 2,250 is 30% of the bill, do you expect the bill to be more or less than 2,250? It should be more than 2,250, and in fact, when you divide 2,250 by 0.30, you should get 7,500 for the bill. So that gives us a final bill of $7,500. And that's more than the 2,250, so that makes sense. It's logical. So that's our final solution. Because of evaporation, the water level in a pool drops at a rate of 1/12 inch per hour. In how many hours will the water level drop 3 inches? So it drops 1/12 of an inch per hour. What does that per mean? It means times, every hour. In how many hours will the water level drop 3 inches? So 1/12 h equals 3. We need to solve for h by eliminating this 1/12. We could multiply by the reciprocal, which is 12 over 1. We multiply the right-hand side by 12 over 1, and we get h equals 36. H is the number of hours, so our solution is 36 hours. And that's our solution. And that's the end of this section.